Right, welcome back. We're on episode 7 now of the Homegrown Music Podcast. So yeah, last week we were with all the members of Broken Sync. We did a little interview with Jack, and this week we're just back to me and Jack. How are you? How are you doing, Jack?
Pretty all right actually today. Not got a lot to do. Lockdown has thrown once again us all off.
Yeah,
My the New Year plan of getting an EP we started to record has just sort of been thrown aside once more. But
yeah, man. I've sort of put all of my plans on hold indefinitely because I've realized that if I start to make plans, if I hope too much for the future, then I might just get disappointed. So I'm keeping my expectations really low, like base level. Like,
that's how I got through school.
yeah, just like this is my base level expectation for this year. I mean, if it even doesn't reach that, then that'll be pretty disappointing. But
What's your
um,
base level?
I think my base level is just um, it's probably just staying alive. Basically, it's just living. Uh,
Survive.
Drinking water. That's what it's going to be. It's drinking more water. That's the idea. Um, yeah, that's about it.
Good idea.
All of my musical plans are basically scuppered. Although there is something I will talk to you about because I was inspired recently. I saw this music video. I think it was by Biffy Clyro, and I think they like filmed it in lockdown. So I think they each like filmed themselves playing their instruments and like mashed it together in like a music video.
Yeah.
I think that's what they did because I remember seeing it and hearing it in summer after the first lockdown and being like, oh, okay, like that's quite a cool video. Um, so I was thinking of doing that, and I think it's a really good idea for bands who are obviously all in separate places. Like, I don't know what software you need to do it, but you know,
From
getting
from
yeah,
From
go.
my understanding, what you do is you record, let's say you've got the guitarist and the drummer, they both record their parts separately to like the same guide track, and then they all get sent off to one place and get all put together, as far as I know.
Hmm,
Because I really like those ideas as well, and I've had a
yeah,
brief look into it because I was like, oh, how do you do that? From what I can understand, you have to like basically record yourself like you would normally in like a studio
yeah,
to get like the proper sound. Otherwise, you end up just going through the camera
yeah.
and then
Which
mash it all
doesn't sound
together.
great. Yeah, I think
Yeah, and you might also have issues with like timing. Like let's say the drummer's like slightly off or
true.
whatever,
Yeah,
because that will throw everything. Or like
yeah,
the bassist
literally.
is ever so slightly like
That's
too
that's
fast.
that's the only thing that's making me think like, this might be logistically a nightmare trying to like line up all the tracks and yeah. But I think I don't
Yeah,
know.
it
It
could
could
work
be
though.
it could be an idea just to like um you know film stuff, and then if you've already got a song released, just like have that
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
music
definitely.
video, and like don't include the sound, like the live sound from playing the instruments, but just include the video and then have
Oh
the
yeah,
actual
yeah, that
song.
works.
That would
Yeah,
look cool because I think that's
that is
probably
quite cool.
what Biffy Clyro did, obviously, because they had an actual released song, and so they were just like, yeah, we'll like just film ourselves playing it, but we won't, it's not like yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like a live recording. It's yeah, just a music video type thing, which I think is
yeah, I
is,
quite
is
like
a
the
really good
idea.
idea. Yeah, especially for now, like we're all in lockdown. What can we as musicians do to basically keep creative? And I think that's one of the things that people might have to do. So I'm going to look into that actually because I think I want to do that with my band, and I think a lot of bands are considering it, just doing something
Yeah.
creative.
Well, yeah, I mean, we should also, with Homegrown, just in general, to get the open mic started. That's something to talk about
Yeah,
in an actual meeting later on.
someone DM'd. I think one of our followers DM'd a while back suggesting we do like a Zoom style open mic where it's like live and you like
Yeah, I believe they did. Yeah,
yeah, and I think that might be something we should look into because I think we need to sort of I guess like freshen up the format a little bit and try new things. Because
Yeah,
the open
definitely.
mics did do really well in the beginning, but I think over time, you've got to keep it exciting, you've got to keep it interesting, and I think you know, it got a bit samey, but I think it was good. I think we just maybe need to like freshen it up a bit, make it a bit, add a little bit of spice to it,
Yeah, definitely. We'll discuss that with the others when we get a meeting going. We need
Yeah,
to actually arrange on those. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's so difficult
I,
now though, because like we used to be able to like, I don't know, when everyone was still at school, we could just, arrange a meeting. I mean, we even had a couple of meetings in person, that's how long ago we're talking. But yeah,
we
hopefully
we
those
had
times will come again.
that first meeting, didn't we? In the like not the council room. You know, the very small thin room that we were in.
Yeah,
That was only a couple of days before we went straight into lockdown, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, it
And
literally
then,
was. Yeah,
because that was one of the main discussions, was like, how the hell do we
keep this
work around
going.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we should definitely get back on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you had some topics prepared.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I wanted to because I did. I was just chilling out as I do, watching some YouTube, and I came across a couple of videos talking about Spotify's business model, and I just kind of I came across something, and it basically said that it's not. I don't know if it's official yet, but it was like Spotify announced plans to basically let you advertise. Well, they would advertise your music, so they would push your music using their algorithm. So they would look at what type of music it is, what kind of genre it falls into, and push that music to the types of people that listen to it in exchange for a cut of your royalties. So they're paying you even less to get your music out there. And I just wanted to know what your opinion is on that. Like, what do you think that would be worth it for like a kind of a small musician just trying to get recognition, or?
I think if music's a hobby, then maybe. If you've got the money and it's not your main source of income, I think yeah, you could probably afford to do it.
Hmm.
But if you are like a starting out musician and you don't have Spotify doesn't pay enough as is. That's a known fact. But I think if you're able to, I think it would be quite good financially
Yeah.
because it does get you out there a bit. But I also do think that there are other ways you can get out there. I mean, I know it's not the best platform in terms of just sharing music, but Instagram is incredibly good for this kind of stuff, is because the ads on there, as far as I know, are fairly cheap. This could be completely wrong, but as far as I know, they're fairly cheap. So you can. I mean, I've found quite a number of musicians through Instagram ads, but yeah, I think Spotify is probably more of a platform people are going to obviously be listening to music on than Instagram. You may not be using Instagram for music. So you might not find people like that.
Yeah, because I think it's almost like a shift in attitudes where people are almost seeing Spotify as like almost like a discovery tool, like a social media tool, where it's like, being used to kind of discover new musicians. Because I mean, everyone has their like playlists like that are made for them, or like you get like songs coming up in your recommended or whatever, and it's like, you know, it's like it's becoming more of a social media tool. But a lot of people would argue, would it just be better to keep what meager money you get from Spotify anyway, from the listeners that you already have, and not pay for that extra promotion, and maybe just like focus on your promotion elsewhere, like on Instagram, like you were saying. So I think that's the best option.
But I think then it comes into question about other ways of releasing music, because if you're only using Spotify to distribute your music, you won't make much money as is to begin with. But then again, like even off of that, like I think if you use Spotify, as you say, as like a social media thing, and you get your music out through that, if you have other ways of selling your music, like CDs, vinyls, merch in any form sells decently and is the best way to give money to an artist is through merch. And I think so. Spotify, as you say, maybe is more of a social media platform, but I think the problem is with it is a lot of people are listening to music on that as opposed to buying a CD or whatever, because no one massively. I think I'm one of the only people who own CDs.
Yeah, because I think CDs have died out with the rise of like things like iTunes and like digital downloads of music, and there's no really. Then again, if we look at what happened with vinyl, like there was a massive surge in vinyl popularity, and I almost think that maybe in the next few years the same thing will happen with CDs, because it's weird. It's almost like every other analog form of music has had like a popular comeback. Like we were seeing like cassette tapes being sold, like being like made by like indie artists who want to look cool and release a cassette that you have to rewind each time. But no one wants to make CDs anymore for some reason. Like a cassette tape and a vinyl are cooler than a CD.
I think there's a inherent value to vinyl as opposed to CDs. Trust me, because I've looked into it, are pretty cheap to produce. This is how we get an REP done, is through CDs.
Yeah.
Because, as we say, Spotify do not pay enough. Apple Music apparently are a bit better as far as I know. So maybe through that. But anyway, I think the thing is with vinyls, they come with there's an inherent value of holding it, of like you can open it up. The actual disc, the vinyl itself, it's got some weight to it. It feels sturdy. Well, it depends how far back you go, because some of them do feel really flimsy, but they generally have like a feel to them. And there's something about having the sleeve with you and whatever inserts are in there, like maybe a lyric sheet, a booklet, or whatever. I think that's why vinyl may be considered more valuable, and also they sound really good.
Yeah,
that's the other thing people talk about. And cassettes, I think, is more of a nostalgia thing. I think for people is like the idea of putting a cassette in and rewinding it. And I think, I don't know why, because maybe it's just past my time, maybe. But I think cassettes are having a revival only because of the nostalgia for them, and maybe not massively because of how they sound.
I don't think it's because of how they sound, because I have used vinyl cassettes and CDs, and I don't own a vinyl player, but I remember someone playing one for me, and I just remember thinking, wow, the quality of sound here is actually really nice. And there's also something about the ritual of doing it, isn't it? Like you're saying, it's the physical thing, putting it onto the
like putting the disc down and
putting the needle on.
Yeah,
like that's cool. But with a cassette, I think it's a lot to do with like the shape and the little box that it comes in, and like people they think it's like cute and cool and fun.
Yeah, I think there's, as I say, a sort of nostalgia to them. The other thing with vinyl as well, as we say, sounds really good. I think that's why it's had a sort of revival, is because CDs sound all right. There's nothing bad with them, but there's they don't sound as good as other forms, but they don't sound as bad as something like a cassette. But vinyl is just like, I've got a fairly cheap vinyl player. Like, it's not set up to any big good speakers or anything. It's like literally just a box with two speakers in the front, but it sounds absolutely amazing because that's just the format. That's just the way it works. I think you could maybe see a CD revival, maybe.
I think so. It'd be cool. It'd be really cool if it were, because I think CDs are like the most, or one of the most practical forms of like physical music that you can have. Easily to transport. You can put it in every car.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going back to what we were saying. It also, in terms of the profit you get from making the CD versus selling it, is pretty good. You can sell a CD for fairly cheap.
Yeah.
Because they can be replaceable and stuff. Vinyl is expensive because it's,
Yeah.
very, like, not hard to make, but they're, expensive to make and expensive to manufacture. CDs you can do literally on your laptop and
for sure,
and burn it over. But so I feel like it might not have a revival just because of the case that it's fairly cheap.
Yeah.
But I also do feel like maybe in the same way cassette has it, of a sort of nostalgia of having a CD. Because I used to quite like having CDs as a kid because you can open them up and you get a little booklet out and you can look at all the pictures. I was like a proper 5-year-old. Oh, look at the pictures. But CDs can also be damaged quite easily. That's the other thing.
That's true.
But,
that's true. But yeah, I mean,
as I say, they can be replaced easily.
Yeah, they're cheap, and maybe the fact that they're so cheap is why they're popular with indie musicians and like underground artists who all you have to do is burn it off your computer and you can sell that and you can have your mixtape on a CD and I think there's I like that aspect of it where it is just like anyone can do it and distribute it. And I mean, I don't know about the legality. You probably have to like license it and all of that. But
I think if it's your own music, as far as I know, there's no legal issue.
Oh yeah, no, it's only if you're like ripping off,
Yeah, I mean, if I burn like my whole, I've got the Queen box set. If I burnt my whole Queen box set and started trying to sell that, that's a legal issue.
Yeah.
But I think, going back to the Spotify thing, I think selling CDs may be the way forward for people, or like any merchandise. I mean, T-shirts, badges, stickers, or whatever.
Yeah.
Even if you want to be adventurous and go for vinyl, I wouldn't suggest it. But if you wanted to do that,
because people aren't making money off Spotify now, are they?
it's impossible. It's just, I saw a Twitter thread a couple of weeks ago maybe. I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was like a woman had been a songwriter, and she had gotten, I can't remember if she performed the song. I think she'd only written the song but hadn't performed it. Someone else had performed it and released it. But the woman, like, it had like 100,000 streams. Sorry, like, it's fair.
Yeah,
that's a fair ways forward. And she had made like less than $2, I think, or something, off of 10,000 streams. And it was like she wrote it was her song just because someone else had performed it, and the person who had performed it as well also had made like the same amount of money.
So I mean, with that business model, the only people who are gonna benefit are people with millions and millions of streams. Like, we're talking like the major artists who are gonna get so like many
the top
streams.
100 artists.
It doesn't really matter, because I mean,
but even then, I don't know if they're making that much money.
No.
If you think about it. And again, I think their main income comes from merchandise and live events. Because, and obviously that's now sort of out the window for most people.
And see, that's what I was learning about is because of this pandemic, how is that going to affect musicians? And because no one can live off of just streaming alone. Like, it just doesn't. It won't give you the money.
No, it doesn't. And that's why I say, if you do music as a hobby, and if it's something that you have an interest in, but it's not your main source of income, maybe this new Spotify idea could work out. But alternatively, I think it's not a great business practice. I've spoken ill of it before. But going out and literally handing your CD out in public might be a better way of getting people to listen to your stuff than an advert.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. I think, I can see why it's a decent idea to like promote your music further, to reach a wider audience. But I just still don't feel like that's gonna have an impact. Like it's such a far cry from like organic growth, through building up popularity in like your local area by doing shows and
Yeah,
gathering a following and then spreading further by doing you know posting
bigger
music
shows
video,
and
bigger
so
shows
on. Yeah.
and so on and so on and so on. But I mean, I don't think it's kind of like if you have enough money now, you can kind of just make music at home from your laptop and then just like promote it and promote it and promote it till it gets like 1 million streams or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one.
I don't know if the old model, as much as I'd like it to be, because this is sort of the musician's way of doing it, is performing. I don't know if the way forward is performing little shows, then gathering a following in your local area, and as you say, because I just don't know if that happens anymore.
No, I don't think it does.
I think you have to have some form of a viral hit in a way, or because I mean, like you look at like the yodeling kid, I forget his name, but you know the guy I'm talking about.
Something like Ramsey, something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Something like that, yeah.
But he blew up, all because he was yodeling in the back of a supermarket. But it's not. He didn't start playing small shows. Maybe he did.
No,
maybe he was playing small shows, but it wasn't what launched him further.
It was a viral hit, yeah.
Yeah, and the same goes for Declan, name drop. But the same goes with Declan. He got big because again he was playing small local shows and he was playing in local events. He was gathering a small following. But what really brought him up, there's the door, was Brazil. Was the fact that Brazil suddenly blew up overnight, and then he went on to play bigger shows. As far as my understanding of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that old model works.
Didn't Brazil catch the attention of like Glastonbury or something like that? And he did the like up and coming small stage at Glastonbury. I don't know. I think something like that.
I don't know too much about his history. What I do know is what our mutual music teacher told us. So that's what I'm basing this off of.
Doesn't like BBC have like a BBC Music introducing thing now where they kind of find I don't know what the process is like, but they find small musicians and like promote them and have them play on the radio.
I think that could be a way forward, but it is now more. You don't play shows and you get a small following.
No,
Beatles or Rolling Stones style. You now really have to be heard mainstream first, and then you can start doing.
Yeah, it's almost like everything is digital now, and you have to conquer that before you can think about. And especially now, because now there is literally no option of doing it the other way and like playing shows and just getting friends of friends of friends to like keep coming back to your shows, but you can't do that anymore because you are literally don't have the choice. So it's like, right, well, the way forward is just digital. So let's promote everything social media, like, and you haven't even performed in front of anyone yet, but you've got a social media following. It's so weird to me. It's so weird because
social media is so important now.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's just the culture.
Because to me, it just never. I didn't get Instagram till the first lockdown. I didn't get a proper like. I only had Facebook for like the longest time. I got Facebook when I was like 14, and I never used it. And I never used any social media up until literally like the first lockdown, and I was like, I might as well. So I got like Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was just like, oh, actually, it's actually kind of quite a cool resource. But it still feels weird to me that everything now, this is just the way that everyone has to do it now. There is no choice. Like this
I had a very similar thing with Instagram. I was one of those 14-year-olds who was like, social media is bad for you and all that, which, yes, it is bad for you.
It is
but
bad
it's
for you.
also, it is.
You weren't wrong.
Was,
You weren't wrong.
no,
Like, it is bad for you.
But I tried to pretend that there was a moral high ground of not having it. Honestly want to punch child me. But
Same.
I got it in April 2019, I think, round about that point, purely because Lloyd set up our band Instagram.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's a similar thing with you. I noticed it's very important, and I've actually found some of my favorite artists now through social media, as opposed to just finding like a CD in a store or whatever and going, oh, I like the look of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Instagram is a very important tool, and not just Instagram, but all social medias. And it's, I mean, you see people now referring to themselves by like their like their Instagram handle or whatever, or their Twitter handle or whatever, as opposed to like an actual artist name or whatever, because it's
because it holds more power.
Like,
yeah,
because it's like, oh, that's where you can find me. It's not like, oh, this is my name and this is my Instagram handle. Like, that's two separate things. It's just has to be one thing now.
I'm still against it. I mean, to be honest, social media to me is just a necessary evil that I have to do in order to literally just interact with this world now. Like, that is literally it. Like, the only way that I can talk to my friends, talk to even, my family and stuff is social media platforms and digital platforms, and not, there's nothing feels real anymore. I think I'm just in lockdown mode, honestly, because
I've got an unhealthy problem with Twitter in particular.
Right.
I have had for a bit, because I had Twitter above everything else, because I was like, oh, it's a way of following the news. I wish it wasn't, because it's a really bad place.
Yeah.
Everyone on Twitter is just a horrible person.
Yeah.
It's just, but it is, as you say, like a necessary evil. I do get all my news off of that. I do find out everything from that. I found out about this lockdown through that. Like,
I couldn't do Twitter, man. I just couldn't do it.
No, I would suggest you don't.
Yeah, I don't want to. Don't worry. I think I'm just gonna stick to Instagram. I don't know. Facebook to me is literally just a tool to look at, like Facebook Marketplace. That's all I use it for, and maybe, I don't know. Maybe like, well, no, I literally can't think of anything that I use Facebook now for. Whereas Instagram, it's like the first thing that I think a lot of people do when they wake up. It's like, oh, I'm just going to scroll through Instagram while I'm waking up.
Just check it. Yeah. I mean, Instagram is more vapid in the fact that it is just sort of pictures of people. Like, you just post pictures of yourselves and oh, look, this is what I did today. But it's better than Twitter in the fact that you don't constantly hear people screaming at each other for like,
it's still toxic,
random things,
but it's like a veiled toxicity. It's like hidden behind a curtain of. It's like
it's
a
more
veneer.
Toxicity about yourself rather than being toxic towards other people.
It's like a veneer of like over positivity and like fake happiness and like, look how great everything is, but underneath there's just so much toxicity. It's like, oh man.
Well, I mean, people. I've done this. You edit your photos. I don't know why. You just do, because it makes you feel better. I don't know why. I've done it. Like, I'm not having a go, because I'm personally guilty of it. But it just makes, I don't know, it's dumb. Why?
It is dumb.
Like,
I have found myself looking through my Instagram feed and like looking at the amount of views and being like, oh, why hasn't that one got as many views as that one? Like, why hasn't that video got as many views as that one? And then I just have to stop myself and go, why do I care? Why is this important? Why do I feel like I need to see a certain number there, or like a certain amount of people who's liked it or whatever? It's so meaningless in the long term.
Well, I do
I'm constantly
the same.
saying, do you do this where you just scroll through Instagram, and because you might follow like a few guitarists, you get like loads of like really amazing, talented musicians. I have the same with drums. I'll literally scroll through and I'll see like 10 amazing drummers. And at the end of it, I'll just go, well, yeah, I might as well just quit. Yeah, I'll never be as good as any of these people. What am I doing? Like, and it's like really
What
demoralizing, actually. It doesn't
what gets
inspire me.
me is drummers, not drummers, sorry, guitarists and bassists get me because I'm like, oh, for God's sake, like I'll never be that good. But then I go, well, I'm not. I don't consider myself a particular guitar player. I play guitar, but I'm not a guitarist. So it's like, yeah, it's a bit crap, but it's whatever. The thing that gets me is piano players because I think I'm at least competent on piano, and then it's just like you see people play like what's the piece, Moonlight Sonata, and they're like all over the thing. Oh, no,
Yeah,
just never mind. Just
yeah,
I'll give up.
yeah.
I know like the
Same.
opening 5 notes, and that's it. But I think, I play my way, they play their way. But
You
I
just
did
got to
do.
keep doing it. That's the thing.
I don't know if you ever have this, where you have like a really off day of playing an instrument. Like I woke up yesterday
Yeah.
and I sat down and I was like, oh, I'm going to play Ballad of Billy the Kid, right, which is a fairly simple song. It clearly wasn't like yesterday. I was like, I've made so many like wrong notes because it's in G, but I was hitting like random notes out of nowhere. It
Yeah.
was just having not a good time.
But
I don't
then
know why.
have you had the opposite of like a bad day, and where like maybe you leave it a couple of days and then you come back to it and you sit down and everything's flowing and you feel really in tune with it? Because I'm exactly the same as you, where I will sit down at the drums one day and I'm just like, oh, I've suddenly forgot how to drum. I sound terrible, and I just
Yeah.
can't. Nothing sounds good. All my fills end weird. I'm like doing extra notes that shouldn't be there. It doesn't work. But then some
Well, yeah.
days you sit down and you're just like, oh, I'm really flowing today. Everything's going really well.
Well, yesterday there's a run down the keyboard that he does, and it's not necessarily a simple run, but it's easy enough, right? And I started doing it. I was like, what the hell? Like I hit all the notes wrong. Like I hit like maybe 2 right ones out of the
Right.
whole run, and it's like right down the keyboard, and I completely screwed it all up. I was like, oh, for God's sakes! And then I was able to do it earlier, all right. So maybe I'm all. But it's
Yeah.
like that moment you're like, maybe I should just stop. Like, I'm just
Oh
clearly
man,
stopped working.
it's easy to get demoralized, isn't it, and not want to play again. But I think for me, sometimes what helps is just like taking a couple days off,
Mm.
just not even looking at my drum kit, not even playing it, and then when I come back to it, it's almost like I've reset and I can play decently again, and it
You can
feels
get back
good.
to it, yeah.
Yeah, because I think especially in lockdown, if there's nothing else to do, I would just drum every day. But obviously now that my parents are working from home and that, I can't drum all the time because they're
No.
working. So I think it's good because then it forces me to actually not burn out, not drum all the time, take a break from it, so that when I do drum, it's more fun and
Yeah.
it flows better. But
Yeah, I'm quite similar with writing. Because when the first lockdown started, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to have so much time to write this EP. I'm going to have so much time to just write as much as I want.
yeah,
It took me about 2 months before I got anything decent.
honestly, yeah.
And then, even then, it was only a small idea that I sent off to Lloyd and he finished completely. And then after that song was written, I had another one that I listened to and I was like, this is awful. Why did I write this? And it took me about 5 months maybe to like fully rewrite it. And even then, I'm not the happiest with it. But it's, it's whatever. It's a filler song. It's not a problem. But it's like, I do feel demotivated sometimes when you write because it's like, sometimes you write a really great line. You're like, oh, hell yeah, that's perfect. That'll fit perfectly in. And then the other times you're just like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Why am I
No, I know
doing
what you mean. I know what you mean. And I think it's like something you touched on earlier, like about how in lockdown, how it's like, yeah, so much time. It's so much time. I don't have any other commitments. I'm just going to sit and do all these creative things. But when it actually gets down to it, it's almost like you can't do it. And I've had this exact
No.
thing where like I wanted to start writing a bit more. I used to write stories, poems, and I was like, I want to get back into that. And I just remember sitting down and I was like, I just really don't even have the energy, like creatively, to just do anything. And it was like I had
No.
to spend the first part of lockdown just like literally doing nothing. And like it's weird. I think even creativity just hits you when it hits you, right? And it doesn't
Yeah.
always, it's not always something you can tap into. And I think it's like that really showed me that just because we're in a lockdown, just because I have all this free time, you know, if that was time normally spent where you would be going to work or school or whatever, on my off days, I might not necessarily feel creative. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But it's only when it strikes.
Well, I used to have a routine when I first started playing piano that I like, right, I'll play for like an hour and a half a day, and I'll do this today. I'll learn this exact thing today, and it works. But it can be like you feel really bad when you just don't feel it that day, and you're just
Yeah,
like, oh, I'll just miss today, and then you go, well, you're screwing up the routine, you've screwed it. So I've gotten out of that headspace, and it's just like just play whenever you want, like just do whatever whenever you want, because you can't force yourself to. It's just going to make you hate it, and
yeah,
that's the one thing that why I didn't like music education when I was in school, because I was like, I just don't feel like it. Like it just doesn't, having a regimented time to be creative just doesn't feel right for me.
no, absolutely.
I know it works for some people. I'm not hitting on it, but it's like for me, it just doesn't work. So I just told myself, just do it whenever you want. Don't. So there'll be days when I mean, I didn't really play the piano for about 2 months maybe during lockdown. Like I just didn't. I played like a little bit, and I tried to figure out a melody on it, but that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't play it because I was just like, just don't feel the need to. So,
No,
but then when I
I know
do come
exactly what
back
you
to
mean.
it, it feels good.
Yeah,
You got can't force yourself. And the same with writing. You as you say, when creativity hits, you do it then.
yeah,
You don't have to
yeah.
force yourself.
There's nothing worse than forcing it, man. Because
No,
it just doesn't feel right, and it doesn't. And even if what you think you're writing is decent, if you're not feeling it, then it just won't stay in. You'll scribble it out, and it won't be, you know. Because I think
well,
yeah,
and that's why I've got all these books, is because it's like in that moment I wrote that one thing. It just didn't feel right.
yeah,
It just didn't. So I've got to, it just didn't feel right because you can't finish it. You don't know what you're doing. But instead of scribbling it out, you just leave it alone and you leave the page blank, and then you may come back to it later on and work around it.
yeah. That's the
But
thing. Yeah, never scribble out your mistakes. That's like
no,
I was told that by someone once, and it was like, oh, actually, that's pretty good advice because actually, your mistakes are pretty important for
yeah,
informing your later decisions and informing your later ideas creatively. You have those to fall back on, but scribbling them out just means that it's almost like it was a wasted thing completely.
it's just a
But
waste of time. Yeah.
yeah, but mistakes aren't wasted energy, are they? Because you're still, well, some are, but I don't know.
Well, even if you do go back to the lyrics later on and you go, actually, no, this was genuinely awful. It's still, I think, getting into the idea that it may not be awful,
Yeah,
or it could work, or you've gone to yourself, right, no, that was genuinely bad, so maybe avoid doing something similar. Mistakes they can be demotivating, but they are important to make.
yeah, they are valuable, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Always make mistakes.
Oh
But
man,
it helps.
I'm a pro at making mistakes, man. Yeah,
Honestly.
I
But yeah, I mean,
I need to like,
you figure it out.
yeah, I think it's like all things in it, but especially with drumming recently, it's like I don't know, I've never really had the motivation to like practice properly, which sounds really bad, but like I never practiced like rudiments I never practiced like, like paradiddles and double strokes and all of that stuff that you're meant to learn. I would just like play groove. And so I noticed, I like looked back at my Instagram and I was like, I'm literally playing the exact same groove in all of these. Or I'm playing the exact same pattern of drum fill. I'm playing the exact same, I'm like predictable now because I've just played the same thing over and over again. And I think it's like, I almost need to get some sort of practice routine going because my playing has gone stale for like the last year.
I think forcing yourself to practice a certain thing, because I've done it, doesn't always help. But I think if you do feel going to 3/4, that I've discovered that helps me, because a lot of songs are obviously in 4/4, and you end up, for me, on like piano and particularly guitar as well, is I end up in a particular strumming pattern or a particular pattern of how to play like a 4/4 groove on a piano, because it's just your brain's wiring to figure that out. And it's a good groove, it works, and it doesn't it's not a bad way, but to mess up almost how you're thinking into a different like time signature, I think does help a bit with.
Yeah.
I'm not great at time signatures. I just know certain songs are in 3/4 and certain ones are in 4/4.
Yeah.
But particularly on guitar as well, because I've barely learned any songs in a different time signature, so it's all just the same strumming. Yeah. So learning in 3/4 throws you completely off, and
okay. I'll have to give that a go because I don't really mess around with time signatures enough, which you'd think as a drummer that's quite important, like learning different time signatures. But I mean, I used to have lessons, and like my teacher would encourage me to like, learn that stuff, and I'd learn that with my teacher. But at the same time, I the only time I play now is just by myself, and I can't even play with other musicians because I think that's a great way of learning as well. It's just constantly playing with musicians, and I think maybe I need to start playing to songs and just learning all the different parts from my favorite songs, because I think that'll
that's the way I've been doing it recently.
Because I mean that's a fun way as well. It's not like just sitting and practicing patterns for hours. Doing the same thing over and over can be really boring.
But you get it with harmonic instruments like the piano or guitar, is you can find the chord sheets online for a song. And that's fine, you can just sort of groove out, like it goes G, C, D, right? But if there's like a little fill or a random, line in there or something, a chord sheet won't tell you that. So it is sort of almost more fun to look at a chord sheet first, figure out the way you like to play it, and then look at all the funky lines and all the funky sort of bits on top of it and go, all right, so I can now integrate that into how I play it. And then you end up almost with not a different song, but a different way of playing it to maybe some other people do, because you've started off how you would play it, and then you've added in the other stuff that other people do into your sort of base, and then it kind of builds off of that. That's what I've been doing recently. But it's also quite good to learn like exactly what other people do, because it will teach you new ways of doing things.
For sure.
It will show you something that you go, oh, maybe I didn't think of that.
Because if you play it just your way every time, you're not changing those, because it's like a toolbox, isn't it? It's like you have like almost like an inventory of little licks and fills and stuff that you can play off like by heart. For me, it's like flams and like certain drum fills. I don't even know what they're called, but certain things I can just play like off the top of my head. But then it's like if I don't learn anything else from that, it means that my playing is limited to those certain ideas.
Thing,
and it's like you need to almost like you need to learn other ways of other people's ways of doing it, other people's fills and that sort of thing.
I think the one thing about learning the way other people do things is avoid only, like, I've noticed it Instagram, particularly with piano players, not so much guitarists, is they will copy exactly note for note someone else's arrangement. It's like, that's fine. Like it's clearly very technical and very clever what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it does feel a bit mechanical. It doesn't feel right.
You need to find your own style and your own. Yeah.
Because I'm a very different piano player than the next guy, and he's a very different piano player from the next. Like everyone's a different player.
Yeah.
It's just how you express it, and I think I've noticed with young kids as well. Some of the young kids I've seen play will think, "Oh, right, the way you have to play this is you have to copy it note for note."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can do it like that, but if you don't input something of your own in there, what's the point? You notice it with like people covering songs as well. Like if they copy it exactly like the exact way the singer sings it, the exact way they play the guitar, like yeah, it works, and obviously, but it doesn't. Like, what's the point of me listening to your cover of something if I could just go if it's the exact same as the original?
But this makes me think of like even the musicians when they play it live, they don't play it the same way. They mix it up every time. Like Brian May plays a different solo for every different Queen song live. Like,
I think, I mean, Brian May, the only solo I think he plays note for note the same is the Bohemian Rhapsody one. That's probably only because of how iconic it is.
And people want to hear,
because it's not because it's. I mean, it is also a really good solo. I forgot how you play it now.
Yeah.
But it's Billy Joel and Elton John and Tim Minchin, they're all brilliant piano players, and they could play the same thing every night, but they never do because it gets boring.
Absolutely.
And you want to add something new to it.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few bands I can think of that. Yeah, they there's only a couple that I know that actually play it like note for note, and that's like Green Day, who literally every single song on their set that they played live was like pretty much to the T. Like it was pretty much like everything was exactly how it was on the record. I was standing there and it was like I was listening to the album. I was like, what am I listening to the album American Idiot right now? Because it was so like mechanical's a bit unkind. It's a bit harsh, but it was like precise, and it was perfectly what they sounded like on record. Which is a skill, but at the same time,
it's not knocking it, but I mean, and that kind of does bring into the theory of live events. Obviously, we cannot go and view this currently, but if I go to a live show and they play exactly the same way that they do on the record, why am I not just at home listening to the record? Because it's cheaper. It's certainly it's better for it. What would I rather do? Listen to it on Spotify for free, or pay like 50 quid to get a ticket to go and listen to the exact same thing, just with more people around me? Like, if I wanted to listen to the album with other people, I'd just invite a couple of people over and listen to it. There's got to be something in a live performance that's separate from the actual recordings.
For sure. Because I mean, I guess that's where stage presence comes into play. Like it's about the performance. It's about it's about the light show. It's about the pyrotechnics. It's about the personality at the end of the day. Like with a live show, you want to feel a connection with the artist. You don't want to just hear the music.
It's almost theatrical, really.
Yeah.
There's a reason Elton John is considered as good as he is. It's because of the stupid costumes. It's because he puts on a show. It's the lifting his foot up onto the piano. Little Richard also did the same. Like it's the character of it,
For sure.
Like there's a reason the Beatles were so popular was because they were funny on stage. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, their early records, they're brilliant songs, but I feel like some of those songs, like I Saw Her Standing There, it's a brilliant song, but it could have been played by anyone, really. It's the character and the personality behind it that sells it.
For sure.
I think that's why a lot of people have an issue with modern rock, I've noticed, is because it feels very accurate to just the same way of playing and the same exact arrangement each time.
The exact same style and the exact same style of performance. Like I don't want to. I don't want to like. I don't want to like hate on people, but because to be honest, like I do like some of this guy's music, but I'm talking about Youngblood, by the way.
Yeah,
I like a couple songs. I think he's good, and I recognize how important he is for music right now. But I also can't help but hear him trying to sing like Gerard Way. I just can't help it. Like My Chemical Romance, I can hear like subtle vocal callbacks to like how Gerard Way would sing a and it's the same with the producing. Like he's obviously taken uh a hint, not a hint, but like he's taken inspiration from the overdubbing and stuff. Uh, and how Gerard Way would like. There's a particular part, and I want people to listen to um, this song and tell me if they agree, because I think it's in the song "I Think I'm Okay," and it's right at the end, and it's the outro, and Youngblood is doing like a vocal outro, and it's like several lines being repeated on top of each other,
yeah.
like sort of melding into each other. It's nice, don't get me wrong, I like it, but it is very reminiscent of like a My Chemical Romance song where Gerard Way would have just those layers of vocals on top of each other.
I guess that brings into question though the influence versus just plain copying argument. I mean, there's
but I feel like it goes beyond that, because it is
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's almost like it is inspiration, but it does feel like a bit like this kind of has been done before, and kind of, I don't know. It's also like the style thing, like like the kind of alternative style has become popular now, and like
Mm.
people like Machine Gun Kelly were like, "Oh, I'm gonna capitalize on people liking punk music and pop punk and emo again, and I'm gonna start wearing chains and studs and
Yeah,
start playing guitar and maybe he liked that music already, but it's like it's also very convenient that because it's becoming popular again, you're leaning heavily into that genre, into that style.
music
Going
is
going back to what I was saying, I just want to
yeah,
clarify.
because I've forgotten what we were on.
I was talking about Youngblood and that sort
Oh
of thing.
right.
I'm not hating on any of these people, but yeah, it is just
No,
a little bit
I
funny.
think there's a line that a very fine line between inspiration and plain out just copying.
Yeah,
Because I think music is a very inspired thing. People like music just comes from inspiration. Like no one,
yeah,
unless you're like a genius or certain. Sorry, I've got something in my eye.
that's all right.
Um, oh, I don't actually. What the hell?
Eyelash.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was. But there's a line between inspiration and just plain copying. I think music is so inspired
Yeah,
by what's come before it. You know, blues and jazz lead to rock and roll leads to punk and grunge,
yeah,
and then that all leads to new wave, which leads to and so on. And disco comes out of nowhere. You know, it's all connected.
yeah. And I
Uh,
don't think I don't think any of those people I mentioned were copying. I do
no.
realize, yeah, they were. It is obviously inspirational,
Yeah,
um, which
but
is
yeah,
fine because we all take inspiration from all over, don't we? So
but I
yeah,
think, and no one will have heard this guy's name, or very few people will have heard of his name. But Robert Johnson, right,
never
is
heard of him.
exactly the most important guitarist ever, if you
Mm,
ask me,
mm.
because he was a blues guitarist in the late 30s, early 40s, and he died in the late 40s, early 50s, I think. And there's only ever been two pictures of him ever, no live footage, and a really dodgily recorded album of
Right.
his. But that little dodgy album went on to inspire people like Keith Richards and Eric Clapton and so on, who are massive names in guitar
Yeah,
communities
and
who
who
are
are regarded as the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all their inspiration comes from one guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just from one guy, but like, you know, and Chuck Berry was inspired by him and stuff. Like people, so Robert Johnson, who's was sort of snubbed out really from because he was black and he was just considered this is the devil's music. Went on to inspire some of the greatest musicians we have.
Yeah.
Because of this random. Sorry, I'm getting an email. So this random this sort of.
Yeah.
And I've listened to the album.
And yet he was denied that recognition.
Yeah,
because
I think
of his skin color.
There was a bit more play than skin color, but skin color certainly was a major factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's the blues music, it's the devil's music, it's stuff that shouldn't be. He was sort of subbed out, but you listen to his playing. He's a brilliant guitar player. He's the guy who, he's the guy that the Crossroads myth about.
Yeah,
like you go to the
I heard about that.
Crossroads. You make a deal with the devil, and you can suddenly play guitar.
Oh, yeah.
That's about Robert Johnson.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, no, because I'd heard that story. I guess I just didn't remember the name. He's quite I don't know. It's not a very memorable name.
I mean it's a bit of a dull name, but it was just the myth comes from he was a young guy who wanted to play guitar, and he'd go to all these blues clubs and stuff, and he would constantly ask, "Oh, can I play?" They'd let him play, and they'd laugh at him because he was like really bad and all that. It was just awful player, like you'll never be able to do it. Supposedly he storms off from town, not to be seen for like a year or whatever, comes back a year later and goes to them, "Can I play?" And they go, "All right, fine, like we'll give him one last chance." He gets up and plays some of the best music everyone in the club's ever heard. How did he do it?
Yeah.
When it must have been with the devil.
And the folklore is then created.
And then the myth comes out.
But in reality, he probably went away for a year and just practiced really hard.
Yeah, he probably just played really hard.
All the time, every day.
But it's the myth that he lives through. But again, people have heard of that myth, but because I remember I've stood in, it was in RE a little while ago. Someone brought it up, and we're like, "Isn't that about?" I think it was Clapton or something. Like it was about like someone famous, and I was like, "No, it's not. It's not any of these people. It's like this random guy from the 40s." But like it's such a myth, like a well-known myth about music, and yet very few people know who it's actually about. There's a documentary of him on Netflix, I think.
Oh, is it? What's it called?
Yeah. The Blues Road or something. I don't know exactly.
Interesting. I might have to check that out.
I'll send it to you later.
Sure.
But yeah, it's very good. But the most important guitarist inspired all of these people later on.
Yeah.
And it goes sort of, we've gone off track from the copying inspiration thing, but
it does link because
because people aren't exactly copying him, but you listen to his playing, it's very clear who then later on copied some of his stuff going forward. And then they obviously go on to inspire people beyond that. Clapton inspires people like John Mayer. Who doesn't John Mayer inspire? And then it grows.
It's a really long genealogy of musical ideas and new inventions being passed down. And it can kind of feel a little bit now like, man, so many ideas have been used up. It's so difficult to come up with something really original. Because I was having this discussion the other day. Like the only way now they would be able to play something really original is if you just slammed the keys or but it wouldn't sound musical. Do you know what I mean? You have to rely on the pre-existing form, like the format that music takes place in. Like if I'm going to play a song, the first thing that any drummer will do on any like normal like 4/4 song is, just play a 4/4 beat. They'll just do a backbeat.
Yeah.
And that's because it's like that's the format. That's what we're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of like the template. and then you build off of there.
Yeah.
And there's not really much you can do now to do anything super original that hasn't been done.
There's only 12 notes and sort of 12 keys, and building anything original from that is impossible now, because it's been so done. I think, and then this goes back to copying versus inspiration. Is like, I could play a rock and roll group like and that's been done hundreds, thousands of times before. But it's what else you add to it that's unique, that changes it. And I think that's why a lot of people, the Beatles were massive, was because they took a familiarity of like rock and roll, Mersey beat music and sort of skiffle sound, and completely like add all these new styles to it, like influences of jazz, influences of like psychedelic and avant-garde stuff, and it completely changes that sound because it's not been done.
Did you say?
I think it is sort of.
Did you say skiffle band?
Skiffle, yeah.
Yeah,
they started off as a skiffle group.
I think my granddad was in a skiffle band once. I think he played guitar.
Quite a few people I know who were in a skiffle band, actually.
That's quite cool. Wasn't one instrument like a washboard?
Yeah, washboard,
thing?
and that was how you
like just a
sort of form of percussion.
Yeah, and like a pole with like a string, and it was like an upright
bass. Yeah, that
bass.
was the bass.
Yeah, that's mental.
There was I know a guy, he's really old now, sort of 70s, not that old, but you know what I mean. He was during that time, and he was a singer in the skiffle group for a short while. Because he said to me, I could not play a single note, but I could sing them, so it was all right. And he was like, and I knew all the words, no one else knew the words. So, but skiffle is a very elementary form of music. It's very simple, but it is from the simplicity comes the good music, and it comes inspiration for stuff. Because I think, you know, it grows from that. And I think my granddad played bass in was it a skiffle group or like a mock rock and roll group? He played bass in a group in the early 60s for a couple of months, I think.
Nice.
He said he didn't know what he was doing at all. But he knew like a couple of notes, so he just played those.
Yeah. There you go. You make do.
But yeah.
I love that sound from like the 60s, like that early sort of, you know, rock and roll. Lots of really nice like harmonies, and it's just that sound, you know, that 60s sound. I love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just it's just so, I can't think of the word, but it's just simple but really effective, I think. Is the best way of putting it. There's just, I don't know, it's just good music. It's just nice.
Yeah, it's just good to listen to. It's just enjoyable. It's just quite nice, isn't it? Yeah.
But music doesn't need to be complex, and this is something I constantly have to tell myself, is you don't have to write, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody to be good.
No.
You can write Twist and Shout and it's fine, you know, like,
and everyone will love it, you know.
Yeah, because you don't need to, because I'll sit there and I'll go, oh, you know, that chord's boring. Why don't I add like the ninth on top, or add all these like interesting harmony things on top? It's just like, you know, that just shows that you know what you're doing. That doesn't necessarily make it good.
Yeah, because when you listen back to it, are you thinking, oh, that sounds really technical, or are you going, that's really catchy and really musical, and it works really well with everything else, and I really want to listen to that again because it's catchy. But that's the thing I have a problem with, like with jazz and like prog music and like all this really technical stuff, is one, it's because I'm jealous that I can't play that well, and two, it's just not that enjoyable to listen to, because it's like you know like drums in like really weird time signatures where it constantly feels like it's stopping and starting. It's like it's like I can't sit and enjoy that and listen to that without feeling like disturbed, because it just doesn't flow. And it's the same with like really like, you know, jazzy notes everywhere, like to me it just sounds like carnage, and I just need something that like flows nicely.
I think
Maybe I'm just not smart enough. I don't know.
It's just not high. Yeah, no. I enjoy jazz through the lens of the musicians having fun. I don't, as you say, like listening to a drum beat in like, I don't know, like 7:15 or whatever, or like some random out of nowhere time signature. Like, yeah, sure, it's impressive, but what is there?
You can't dance to that.
Come out of it. I'm sure you can find a way, but yeah, you can't. And
it's difficult.
There's an enjoyment of jazz through the certain things that are done. There's I've got the name, All of Me. I can't remember who originally did it.
John Legend.
No, not him. It's like a really old song from the 50s.
Not the John Legend version.
I made the same problem, but yeah. Anyway, but it's a jazz piece, really. But the bass line on it, which is very jazz, it's played on an upright bass, is really good. And so I think you latch on to little bits and pieces of a particular jazz song, and you listen to that bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm similar with jazz in the fact I can't sit there and listen to a whole jazz album. I don't think it's just too much.
It's exhausting, isn't it, when you have to pay attention to the music that deeply, and when you can't just let the music wash over you and enjoy it. And
no,
it becomes more of a mental exercise than what music should be. Like I couldn't listen to that to unwind after a long day.
No.
I'd have to listen to. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, that's why I own like Eagles records, because the Eagles are fairly easy listening. You shove them on in the background. Yeah, they're early stuff, not necessarily the later stuff. You can shove them on the background. You don't have to think about it because it's just their music. It's it's just sort of background stuff.
Yeah,
but I think the joy with certain artists as well is you can put them on in the background, but also if you listen closely, there's also some really good stuff going on.
Yeah,
that I think is a good sign of a good song. You can listen to it background, but also if you actively listen, it's really good as well.
Yeah, I could stick on Tame Impala, and it's just nice drum grooves, kind of a bit like psychedelic-y. It's like relaxing. But then actually, if you listen to it a bit more, you're like, wow, this is actually really, intense and quite sick.
Yeah.
but yeah,
it works well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's why Billy Joel's really good for it as well. You can shove. I mean, I like the album The Stranger, which in my opinion is one of the best albums ever. You can shove on in the background because it's some fairly soft stuff and sort of simple songs.
Yeah.
But you look at I don't know, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant or the intro to Vienna or whatever. They're really good songs. They're really well written, but it's also really good to just sort of shove on and not pay much attention to.
Sure.
It's good stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a sign of good music, and yeah. Definitely. This has gone really off topic from the inspiration comment.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, thanks for watching, guys. That was episode 7. We had a nice chat there, didn't we, about evolution of music and other things. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Buy merch from people if you've got the money.
Support your favorite artists.
Yes.
See ya.
Bye bye.